Welcome to the AI-103 Azure AI Apps and Agents Developer Associate Certification course. I am going to be your guide as we prepare to pass this exam, ideally within the next week. This is Episode 1, our course introduction and exam strategy session. Before we dive into any technical content, I want to make sure you understand exactly what this exam tests, how it is structured, and what the smartest study path looks like. The AI-103 is Microsoft's newest AI developer certification, launched to reflect the massive shift in how enterprises build AI solutions. It is no longer just about calling APIs. It is about building agents, orchestrating multi-model workflows, and securing AI systems at enterprise scale. Whether you have 1 week or 1 month, the strategy we cover today will help you use your study time efficiently. Let us get started. The AI-103 exam, officially called Azure AI Apps and Agents Developer Associate, is designed for developers who build intelligent applications on the Azure platform. This is not a beginner exam. Microsoft expects you to understand not just individual AI services, but how to architect complete solutions using them together. You will have 120 minutes to answer between 40 and 60 questions. The passing score is 700 out of 1,000. The questions include multiple choice, drag and drop, case studies, and code review scenarios. The target candidate is someone who writes Python or C# code, understands REST APIs, and has worked with cloud infrastructure at least at a conceptual level. If you have built anything on Azure AI, even a simple chatbot, you already have a head start. Coming up next, let us look at exactly what topics the exam covers and how heavily each is weighted. Let us look at the 5 exam domains and their percentage weights. This is the single most important information for your study strategy. Domain 2. Implement generative AI solutions carries the most weight at 30 to 35% of the exam. This covers Azure OpenAI, RAG architecture, agents, and orchestration frameworks. Domain 1. Plan and manage. Azure AI Solutions is the second heaviest at 25 to 30%, covering hub project architecture, RBAC, security, and responsible AI. Domains 3, 4, and 5, computer vision, NLP, and knowledge mining each carry 10 to 15%. Together, domains 1 and 2 represent up to 65% of your score. This means if you master generative AI and AI management, you can pass the exam even with limited coverage of the remaining 3 domains. We will start our content with domain 2 since it has the highest weight, then domain 1, then the specialist domains. This is a strategy decision, not laziness. Microsoft Foundry, previously known as Azure AI Studio, is the central platform you need to understand for AI-103. Think of it as the unified control plane for all enterprise AI development on Azure. At the foundation, you have the model catalog with hundreds of models including Microsoft's own GPT-4o and o1 through Azure OpenAI, plus open source models like Llama and Mistral. On top of that, Foundry provides tooling for building agents using the agent service, creating orchestration flows with prompt flow, and running evaluations on your AI outputs. The data and grounding layer connects to Azure AI Search for implementing RAG pipelines. Finally, the security and operations layer handles everything from role-based access control to private networking. Every exam domain touches Foundry in some way, so understanding how these layers work together is essential. The portal is at ai.azure.com. Set up a free account and create a hub and project to follow along. Understanding the Foundry hub and project hierarchy is critical for both Domain 1 and 2. A hub is the top-level container. It owns shared infrastructure like Azure Key Vault, storage accounts, compute clusters, and network policies. Under each hub, you create 1 or more projects. A project is an isolated workspace for a team or workload, but it inherits the hub's shared connections and security policies. This design matters for the exam because RBAC can be assigned at either level. Hub-level roles give access across all projects. Project-level roles are scoped to just that project. Multiple projects sharing 1 hub is how enterprises avoid duplicating expensive resources like Azure OpenAI deployments. In the exam, when you see a question about giving a developer access to 1 project but not others, the answer almost always involves project-level RBAC, not hub-level. Keep this hierarchy in mind. It comes up repeatedly. Here's the 7-day study plan I recommend for this exam. Days 1 and 2 focus on Domain 2. Part 1, Azure OpenAI Service, Prompt Engineering, RAG, and Azure AI Search. Days 2 and 3 complete Domain 2 with agents, semantic kernel, and multi-agent orchestration. Days 3 and 4 cover Domain 1, hub architecture, RBAC, security, content safety, and responsible AI. Day 5 is a double header. Complete Domain 3 on computer vision in the morning, then knock out Domain 4 on language and speech in the afternoon. Day 6 covers Domain 5, document intelligence, and the AI search deep dive. Day 7 is your exam day buffer. Take at least 2 full practice exams, review any areas where you scored below 80%, and revisit the exam traps we will cover next. The key insight: invest the most time where the most points are, Domains 1 and 2. Let us look at the 4 question formats you will encounter. Multiple choice is the most common. These can have one or multiple correct answers, so read every option carefully before committing. When in doubt, eliminate clearly wrong options first. Drag and drop questions ask you to match services to scenarios or sequence steps in a workflow. For these, you need to know the difference between services like document intelligence and content understanding at a practical level, not just their names. Case studies present a customer scenario with architecture diagrams and requirements, then ask 5 to 10 questions about it. Critical tip: once you mark a case study question and move on, you cannot go back to it. Read requirements first, then the architecture. Code review questions give you a Python or C# snippet and ask what is wrong or what needs to change. Common issues tested: missing authentication, wrong service endpoint, incorrect model parameters. We will see examples of all these question types in each episode. Now we get to one of the most valuable parts of this course: the exam traps. These are areas where candidates consistently pick the wrong answer, not because they do not know the topic, but because Microsoft tests the nuances specifically. Trap 1. RAG versus fine-tuning. Candidates often think the model does not know this information, so I should fine-tune it. Wrong. Fine-tuning teaches new behavior patterns, not new facts. Use RAG when you need the model to answer questions from a knowledge base. Trap 2. Managed identity versus API keys. In production, always prefer managed identity. API keys are for local development only. Trap 3. RBAC confusion. The Cognitive Services Contributor role lets you manage the resource but does not let you call the API. You need the Cognitive Services OpenAI user role to call the APIs. Trap 4. Prompt flow versus agents. Prompt flow is for deterministic, predictable workflows. Agents are for dynamic, decision-making scenarios where the path is not known in advance. Continuing with exam traps, Trap 5. Document intelligence versus content understanding. Document intelligence handles structured forms and documents like invoices, receipts, and ID cards. Content understanding is a newer service for multimodal content, including video, audio, and complex documents. They are different services with different use cases. Trap 6. LUIS versus CLU. Microsoft retired LUIS in September 2025. All intent classification now goes through conversational language understanding in the Azure AI language service. If you see LUIS in an answer option, it is almost certainly wrong. Trap 7. Content safety versus content filters. Content filters are built into Azure OpenAI and filter model inputs and outputs automatically. Azure AI Content Safety is a separate standalone service for more advanced, customizable moderation. Trap 8. Q&A Maker was retired and replaced by custom question answering, a feature of the Azure AI language service. Any answer that mentions Q&A Maker is wrong. Screenshot or bookmark these traps and review them the morning of your exam. Microsoft responsible AI principles appear in the exam, especially in Domain 1 and in case study scenarios. You need to know all 6 by name and be able to recognize which principle is being violated or upheld in a scenario. Fairness means the system does not discriminate against individuals or groups. For example, a hiring AI that disadvantages certain demographics violates fairness. Reliability and safety means the system works as intended across all conditions, including edge cases. Privacy and security means personal data is protected and the system cannot be compromised. Inclusiveness means AI benefits everyone, including people with disabilities. Transparency means users understand they are interacting with AI and can understand its decisions. Accountability means there are humans responsible for AI outcomes. AI does not operate without oversight. In the exam, you will see scenarios like, a facial recognition system performs worse on darker skin tones. The answer? Fairness principle. Memorize these 6 principles. Before we dive into each domain, let me give you the complete map of Azure AI services. This is your reference for the exam. You need to know which service belongs to which category and what it is used for. In the generative AI category, Azure OpenAI. Service is your gateway to GPT-4o, o1, and DALL-E. The Foundry agent service is for building autonomous agents. Semantic kernel and prompt flow are developer frameworks. For vision, Azure AI Vision handles image analysis, OCR, and object detection. Face API handles facial recognition. Video Indexer handles video content for language and speech. The Unified Azure AI Language Service covers sentiment, NAER, CLU, and custom Q&A. Azure AI Speech handles speech to text, text to speech, and speaker recognition. For knowledge and documents, Azure AI Search is your RAG backbone. Document Intelligence extracts structured data from forms and documents. We will cover each of these in depth across the 7 episodes. If you have previously studied for AI-102 or are coming from that background, here's what has changed in AI-103. The biggest addition is Microsoft Foundry. Azure AI Studio has been rebranded and significantly expanded. AI agents are now a major exam topic. The agent service, multi-agent patterns, and orchestration frameworks like semantic kernel and AutoGen are all tested. Multimodal capabilities, using GPT-4o with images, audio, and video are new to this exam. Content Understanding is a new service that handles complex multimodal content analysis. On the retirement side, LUIS is gone, replaced by CLU. Q&A Maker is gone, replaced by custom question answering in the language service. Form Recognizer has been renamed to Document Intelligence. If you find study materials mentioning LUIS or Q&A Maker as current services, those materials are outdated. Treat those sections with caution. Here are the essential resources for your AI 103 study. The official Microsoft Learn page for this certification is your starting point. It has the complete skills outline, free learning paths, and sandbox exercises that let you practice with real Azure services at no cost. The Microsoft AI 103 study guide is downloadable as a PDF from the certification page and maps each learning objective to specific Microsoft Learn modules. The Foundry portal at ai.azure.com is where you will do hands-on practice. Set up a free account and create a hub and project to follow along with the upcoming episodes. For practice tests, GearUp is the official exam simulator and is the closest to the real exam experience. The Azure Samples GitHub organization has hundreds of working code examples for every service we will cover. I recommend spending at least 30 minutes per day doing hands-on exercises alongside the video content. Reading about Azure AI Search is very different from actually building a search index. Here's your roadmap for the full course. After this introduction, Episode 2 takes on the highest value topic, generative AI and RAG. We go deep on Azure OpenAI, prompt engineering, and building retrieval augmented generation pipelines with Azure AI Search. Episode 3 covers AI agents, the most exciting and fastest growing part of the exam. Episode 4 handles the management and security domain, RBAC, networking, responsible AI. Episodes 5, 6, and 7 cover the specialist domains, vision, language and speech, and document intelligence respectively. Each episode includes code samples, comparison tables, and at least one deep dive on an exam trap. Let us jump into Episode 2 and start earning those exam points. Let us wrap up Episode 1 with the key takeaways. AI 103 gives you 120 minutes for 40 to 60 questions, and you need 700 out of 1,000 to pass. Invest the most study time in Domain 2, which is worth up to 35%. Combined with Domain 1, the top 2 domains can account for nearly 2/3 of your score. Microsoft Foundry at ai.azure.com is the central platform. Everything in this exam lives there. Understand the hub and project architecture. Review the 8 exam traps before test day. In particular, RAG versus fine-tuning, managed identity versus API keys, and the RBAC role confusion. Remember that LUIS and Q&A Maker are retired services. Any question suggesting them as solutions is wrong. Save Day 7 for practice exams. You can know all the content and still fail if you are not familiar with the question format. I will see you in Episode 2 where we go deep on generative AI and RAG. That is where we start building the biggest block of exam points.